Do it up. Good.
Okay.
I go certainly the. It seems like every
hands.
I know.
it seems like every game for the rest of the year is going to be a big one. Thursday being no different. With Memphis here, just how big of a game do you think this is for your team? Still with the chance to win the conference.
Well, we're tied for first, so obviously it's a big game. But you're right. When you allude to the rest of the season. For us, playing for a conference championship. So in your last two games, so that's big. Then you go to the conference tournament, it's 1 and out, and the NCAA tournament's 1 and out. So you got to be sharp this time of year, or it's going to cost you. There's a lot on the line each night out, but my job is to make sure my guys are focused on on the process and not the result. And that's what we spent our time here talking about the last few days, and just getting back to where we're embracing the things that it takes to be a good team. And winning games will take care of itself. And how to not lose, and how to give yourself a great chance to win. And not worry about results, not worry about what's on the line, what's at stake, all that stuff. None of that stuff matters. All you can do is focus on playing each play the way it needs to be played, playing smart, playing together, and the results will follow.
How different are they now that they're using Nichols more at the 4 instead of the 4 guard?
Yeah, they were playing him a lot until our game.
Yeah.
And he played a lot in the first half of our game. I think maybe our offensive rebounding caused Josh to make that adjustment in the second half. But Nichols has been playing much better. And so it's something we didn't see in the second half of that game. Obviously, it makes him a bigger team when he does that. And they're trying to play high-low and go inside a lot more in the half court. But obviously they're not as fast when they do it. So it's a give and take, but they'll play both lineups throughout the game, a lot like us.
Turnovers have hurt you a lot the last 2 games, and that hadn't been a problem for most of the season. And is that just a lack of focus, or what do you think that you attribute that to?
Well, I attribute it, we broke that down. In our 3 conference losses, that's the common denominator. The SMU game as well. So, we have got to practice against this type of defense that we saw against SMU, UConn, and Louisville, and we've got to do a better job of simulating that type of defense when we play 5-on-5 offense in practice. Sometimes it's too easy for our veteran guys to score against our younger guys in our practice sessions. And so we've talked about that, and we've tried to make some moves to rectify that in the structure of practice, just so it's more realistic. So we're playing every day against what we're going to see in March.
It's the same guys. How do you make it harder?
Well, you put different guys on different teams, and you make sure that the ball pressure is there, and make sure that we're playing 5-on-5 at a fresher time of practice. Just different adjustments. That we need to make more of a commitment to spending time going against really tough defense when the guys are fresh at practice and playing 5-on-5.
Is that the biggest problem these last 2 games that you see, or is it more than that?
Well, I just say the common denominator in all 3 of our losses. I agree, our turnovers. I would disagree with your statement that it was the problem in our last 2 games. That would be the biggest understatement in the history of journalism. It was our turnover situation's been horrific.
So I set a journalistic precedent?
Yes. gross understatement.
The other problem has been Justin Jackson's foul trouble, which, as you said, has been a problem periodically. I don't know what you do about that.
Well, another thing, the people double teaming him and us not being able to get him involved in the offense the way he needs to be involved in our offense. We've got to get him involved in our offense on a consistent basis. Not necessarily he's going to score, but you've got to get the ball inside. And he's got to be a calming influence for our offense when that happens. He's a playmaker for us. He's an assist guy out of the low post, and he's a finisher in the low post. So we can't let teams take that away from us. Again, when we go to practice, he gets the ball every time we want to get him the ball. But when you play SMU, Louisville, and UConn, that's not the case. So we've got to do a better job as coaches of making it harder on our team to do the things we need to do in games. So, our simulation in 5-on-5 when we're working on our offense, our defensive simulation has got to be better. That way come Thursday night, it's our guys aren't in shock when their first option isn't there.
Why does he get in foul trouble so much?
Well, he's an aggressive player, and that's number one. Number two is the opposing coach. He has an iPad as well, So Justin has a few bad habits, and if you know that as a coach, you try to go at him enough to where you put him in those situations where he can't resist the foul. He's like my daughter in orange sherbet. He just can't resist. If I leave the room and I leave the sherbet out, it's going to be gone.
So how do you try to counter that? How do you make him not fall for those traps?
I just keep working with him on it. Show it to him on film. Make sure I've talked to him about you have to understand the mindset of the opposing coach. Here's what he's seeing, and there's a book on teams that goes around. Hey, if you do this to Jackson, you can get a good cheap foul on him. If you do this to him early in the game. He plays behind the low post too much, and then tries to rely on his quickness to steal the ball. And teams are using that against him.
Have you noticed how much, I don't want to call it a confrontation, but your moment with Teddy Valentine has been talked about, been written about the past couple of days?
Anything to get publicity that helps recruiting. See, I talked to Coach Pitino about his beard situation. Keeping Louisville in the limelight, so my goal is to make sure Cincinnati stays on that ESPN.com front page. That all helps recruiting. Kids think I'm more famous; they may want to play for me even more.
It worked.
Are you surprised with the support you've kind of gotten from other coaches? What Dan Dockich said about it? And everything?
I'm not focused on what's being said as much as if there's publicity that helps our program. And I mean that in all seriousness. The more you're talked about as a coach, the more kids see you, the more they recognize you. You go out there to recruit. That was a problem for me 8 years ago. I walked in the gym, guys, who's the short young guy in the corner? I used the head coach at Cincinnati. So all that stuff, it does help to an extent, although I'm obviously being funny about it a little bit. But, I don't look good if I don't shave. I'm just teasing. I'm standing here unshaven.
You're saying goodbye to your seniors, and not goodbye, but it's the last home game. What's that going to be like for you with this group?
Yeah, the whole senior night thing for me is I don't get real nostalgic about it because the season's not over. I think that's when SK and them guys come walking out, I'm planning on being with them for a long, at least another month. I'm hoping. And the other thing is, it's not like I'm ever going to see you again. I'm close with my guys. I talk to those guys all the time. So I don't know. I may not quite look at it the way some other people do. It's not a funeral. It's a celebration. I only hope, senior night is for the players, and it's a celebration for them. So hopefully our fans come to the game early and are able to help those guys, make sure that we're celebrating those guys and their commitment to our program, what they've done for the program. Personally for me, it'll be much harder whenever the last game is.
But can you talk about what they've done, what they've meant to the program? The three big scene, three.
Yeah, the guys that have played the most. Yeah, I think Titus has made as much impact as any 2-year player here in a long time. He has given us heart and soul. Things that you cannot, everything that Titus Rubles gives you, everything that coaches talk about that fans really don't understand sometimes. They think, what's he talking about? And you got coaches always talking about toughness. They need to get some scores. Well, let me tell you something. Titus Rubles' toughness is a big reason why we're 24, sitting at 24-5 and tied for first. That's a huge concern of mine. Going forward, the tougher the game, the bigger the moment, the bigger the environment, the more physical he plays, and the more he gets done. You got to have some. To win a war, you got to have some soldiers, and he's a soldier. Justin has come such a long way. It's almost like he's had two different careers. His first 3 years and then this year. But all along, his common denominator has been all he cares about is winning. He's always been a guy that'll do anything to win a game. That's not something I had to demand from him. He always, obviously, like any other kid, he has individual goals. But Justin Jackson's always been about winning. That's who it's just his DNA as a competitor. Losing has always torn him apart. And you lose that in your locker room, it's something I'm concerned about. And SK, the thing about SK, obviously he's probably one of the top 6 or 7 Bearcats of all time. Depending on your opinion and how you compare eras. But he and Justin are going to go to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. It says a lot about who they are. They've elevated the guys around him. It's one thing about SK, not only has he had an unbelievable career individually, he's made the guys around him better. And even when he was a younger player, when he was redshirting, he was, I used to call him Mundini Brown, because he would just follow Yancey up and down the floor, encouraging him in practice. Just constantly encouraging him, trying to get in Yancey's head. I didn't ask him to do that. It's just who he is. He's elevated the guys around him, which I think when you evaluate great players, that's got to be a factor. It's not just about, because there's a lot of guys got statistics, and then there's guys with statistics and wins. And hopefully he can get a championship under his belt. Be nice to get 3, but I like to start with 1 this week, because that obviously elevates his status, in the history of Cincinnati basketball. But that's what, to me, SK's essence is more what how he's lifted the program and his teammates. Obviously, it's hard to replace a guy like that.
When I talked to him last fall as the season was starting, he said one of the reasons he came back is because he wanted to see you cry on senior night. But it doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to cry, but it won't be senior night. And hopefully, we don't lose our last game this year. But what he doesn't realize is every night that I let my mind wander to life without him, I cry in bed. He just hasn't seen it. I've tried to block that out.
Well, he wants to see it.
And in staff meetings, I have to videotape it for him. When Sammy comes in and says, "Dad, what's wrong?" and I'm in my bed weeping, thinking about, SK's graduating, Sammy. And I mean that, so I'll just try to enjoy having him where I got him. That's my, same with Justin and Rob. It's that's just, I just look at it a little bit differently. And they're always going to be around too. But I think about how am I going to replace these guys. That's when I start to get.
That's
sad.
where the weeping comes.
That's where the weeping comes in.
I have a hard time picturing you weeping.
How much do you think it helped Titus when he came in here that Justin right away kind of took him under his wing instead of, they were battling for the same spot, but instead became, really good friends?
Yeah, I think that competitors respect each other. Justin been around long enough to know that to win games, you got to have some guys line up with you and go, be able to go into the fire and win some games on the road to be a real team. And I think he recognized real quick that Titus was, like I told you, it was a heart and soul, and very similar to himself. That those guys, those 3 guys together. I told you guys this at the first press conference: the 3 toughest guys in America combined on any team. But yeah, no doubt. But that's it says a lot about who Justin is. That he embraced Titus from Jump Street.
Are you worried about anything involving the quick turnover between Memphis and Rutgers?
Oh, I worry about everything. I will say this: this time of year, the last thing the guys want to do is practice. Now they've been great about practice this week because they understand that we got to improve. But that won't last forever. The guys are at this point in time, if you got to practice a lot, you're in trouble anyway. I'm not, obviously, I playing Thursday, Saturday is life in the NCAA tournament. Playing Saturday at noon to me is irresponsible on our conference's part, which I voiced to them through our athletic director when the schedule came out at the preliminary round of scheduling. But I asked them, my thing to them was, there's a chance we could be playing for a conference championship. And, how fair will that be? I don't think they believed that was possible. And it may not be. We got to win Thursday night. So, at the end of the day, though, I'll make sure our guys understand. And we'll do everything we can to overcome it. I don't believe in excuses anyway. So, we'll fly up Friday, get some rest, watch a little film, get ready to play Saturday. Which, trust me, when you ask the guys, that's what they'd rather do anyway. All right, guys.